Last in Line has a new album that just came out called Jericho. This band consists of former members of the band Dio. The current lineup includes Vivian Campbell, Vinny Appice, and two other members, Phil Sowson, who played with Ozzy Osbourne, and Andrew Freeman on vocals. He was the vocalist for Lynch Mob. This was an album that was supposed to come out before the pandemic, but it got pushed back. It eventually came out, and it's actually a very good album. I didn't really have high expectations for this album. I thought it was just going to be some run-of-the-mill traditional heavy metal album, but it really stood out. That's why I'm doing a full review as opposed to just a short review. This one took me by surprise because even after the first listen, I thought it was just this really good album. And it's going to be an album that people are talking about, or at least I hope they do. So the album is influenced by the Bible story of Jericho, and you can see just by the first track, it's called Not Today Satan. I think it's a really great song title. The drumming really stands out in this track. You can hear it very well. The song starts with like this drum intro and has this like pounding drum beat throughout the song. I like the overall sound of this opening track because everything from the guitar riff to the vocals sounds like something from like the late 80s. The chorus is very melodic and also kind of reminded me of like the band Saigon Kick, where they do those kind of melodic singing. And the album continues with Ghost Town. This one has this very like thunderous bass sound. You hear it very clearly. And the song also has some like grungy undertones as well. And they do this like Led Zeppelin Black Dog style where they alternate the verse and the guitarist. So that was pretty cool. But speaking of grunge, the third track is called Bastard Son. It reminded me a lot of like Alice in Chains. It has a slower beat, the thumping bass sound, the grungy guitar riffs, and the vocals were a little more sludgy, I guess I can call it that. I like the guitar solos in the song and just the rest of the album. They both have the speed and the melodies. Like all these guitar solos on every song are really good. Dark Days has some memorable guitar riffs, but you know, all the guitar riffs are really great in this album. This is a really great riff album, but the thing that stands out on this song are the vocals. They use like this heavier, grittier vocal style in the verses, and the chorus is very melodic and like sing-alongable. I like this one because it shows the band's heavier side. Still a lot of melody, and another thing they do, and a few of the other songs, they have these like King's X like style harmonies, and that really worked very well. Burning Bridges starts off as it's going to be a power ballad, but the song is actually more of an energetic, traditional heavy metal song. Continues with the pacing of the album, heavy distorted guitar chords and big soaring vocals. Even though the song has some quieter parts, it's still a rocker. Now what I just said about the last song applies to the next song called Do the Work. It starts with like a clean guitar intro. It appears to be a ballad, but it's not. It's another hard rocker. Has everything you would expect from this band. It's consistent with the tone of the rest of the album. I like the lyrics because they say the line, if you want a good life, do the work. If you want to be in the spotlight, do the work. You know, that's like the chorus, and it's just like a very memorable chorus and something that like you can relate to. About halfway through the album, you get to the song Hurricane Orlok, and this was on that EP that they released last year. That one only had 4 songs, and this was one of them. It's a shorter song, but it does a good job of creating a lot of tension. They use parts of the song where it's just like the drums and the bass, and then other parts where the guitar comes in, and it's placed together with these like faster and heavier sections. So they're creating like these sound waves. That's how I could describe it. Then Walls of Jericho. It's a straightforward traditional heavy metal song. Not much more to say about it. It just rocks. It's just all there is with it. I like the guitar tone. They use both like the distortion and the dissonance in the guitar riffs, and it's more of a fast-paced song. It's a little shorter. It's about 3 minutes, but it's definitely a strong track. As the album begins to close, you have a song called Story of My Life. This might be one of my favorite tracks, just for a few reasons. First of all, I like the lyrics. They talk about like the battle between good and evil. And the second thing I like is the guitar tone. They use more of those palm muted, like chunky guitar riffs, and I really like that. So at this point in the album, there are 3 more songs. The next song, We Don't Run, has a soft intro, like many of the previous tracks. But again, I wouldn't call it a power ballad, although it's a little more laid back than the other tracks. It's definitely a lot more melodic with some of the other songs. Reminds me of a typical 80s glam metal song, but mixed with some of the darker tones of a traditional heavy metal song. The lyrics are in line with the rest of the album. It mentions faith and evil. It's a very melodic song. It has a softer tone than some of the others, and it's still filled with everything you would expect from this band. The penultimate song is called Something Wicked. This one has a cool groove to it. I like the guitar riffs in this one. Like the rest of the album, they sound like they came from the 80s. The vocals are a little heavier and angrier in this song. It's not a very fast-paced song, but it has this sludgy yet melodic sound to it. It has a really great chorus. It kind of sticks in your head. You know, they sing, something wicked this way comes. Something like that. But a really great guitar solo on this as well, and probably one of my favorites in the album. Final song is called House Party at the End of the World. Kind of a weird song title, but this one, and maybe the only one, actually sounds like a typical Dio song. You know, without Ronnie, of course, but it's fast and heavy, has those galloping guitar riffs. I can imagine Ronnie singing a song, and it would fit on one of their earlier albums. You know, maybe like Last in Line, like that album from 1984. But anyway, it's a closing track. It slaps. It's a great song for fans of classic heavy metal. The lyrics are cool. They're singing about revelations, which they're probably talking about the book of the Bible. And it's just an awesome closer to this great album. So like I said in the beginning of the video, this album took me by surprise. It's their third album. I like the first two. The first two didn't blow me away, but they were good. But this is, I think, the best of the three. I still need to revisit the other two albums, and I'll just make that final judgment. But I think this one will come on top. It's a traditional heavy metal album. You have hints of that classic Dio sound, and hints of like 80s glam metal, but like the heavier end of that subgenre. My score, I'm going to give it a high score. I'm going to give it a 9 out of 10. It's possibly like album of the month. We'll see. I know it's the last day of March. But let me know what you thought of this album. Make sure to give this video a like. Helps me with the algorithm. Thanks for watching, and see you in the next one.